Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name's Cliff and this is Cliff's Dark Gems. Today we're going to be continuing looking at my Stephen King collection going through to the 90s. But I also want to talk a little bit more about what I mentioned yesterday, which was the different eras in Stephen King's writing career. And we're going to look at that before jumping into the books. Firstly, I'd just like to make it clear that I think it's a wonderful thing that Stephen King sobered up in the 90s. I think some of his best work actually has been in the 90s and late 2000s, and we would not have seen it. And he's now a happy, healthy, productive man, and so that's a great thing. However, if I think back to my favourite era of Stephen King, it has to be the 70s and 80s. And it's undeniable that some of the titles that stand out for me above any of his work is things like It, Pet Sematary, Salem's Lot, Misery, and all those books were written under the influence. That sort of makes them darker, harder, more terrifying in my mind than anything he's written since. Okay, I have to add that I've also read everything he's written from the 70s and 80s. I don't own every hard copy, so unfortunately, because this is showing off my books, that's not included in this video, or the next one either. Let's go into the 90s, which I think were a little bit up and down for me. I think Stephen King was a little bit hit and miss, maybe in the 2000s as well. Maybe that was as a result of his sobriety. But he still produced stunning work, and he proved himself, and even in recent times he's proven himself a wonderful storyteller. So let's go in the first book in the 90s. It's a collection of 4 novellas, 4 Past Midnight. Now this, have a look at this cover. Now this was a good collection. I felt it was a little bit uneven. I think The Langoliers was a wonderful concept, but I think the story dragged on a bit for me. So this is not his best work. I think he was still struggling a little bit, trying to come to terms with the fact that he was sober. And yeah, I think that influenced the work a little bit. Okay, the next book we get is The Wastelands. And this is my favourite Dark Tower adventure. There's just so much going on in this book, and towards the end we meet perhaps the most interesting, unique villain that Stephen King has ever created, Blaine the Pain, which is actually a train. And I really just found this whole, and it leaves us a little bit of at the end, a little bit of what do you call it, sort of you don't know what's going to happen next, and you have to wait for part 4. And I know that it took him a long time before he actually started part 4. Luckily for me, I just read all of them in a sitting. I didn't have to wait for the production dates. Okay, that is The Dark Tower. Next we have Gerald's Game. This was an interesting one for me, and the fact that the setting and the whole novel takes place just in the room with this poor woman handcuffed to the bed, and her thoughts and her desperation to escape, just for something to happen. It was terrifying, and there's a scene with the handcuffs, and it's guaranteed to make you squirm, but for me it just didn't quite work, but it was still a terrifying novel. That is Gerald's Game. Okay, next we have Dolores Claiborne. Now this is one of Stephen King's most original tales, I believe. It tells the story of a woman convicted of murder, and she has to speak her case to the police. It is highly original, thought-provoking, at times horrible, at times hilarious, and heartfelt. And I really enjoyed this. And it really just comes from this woman's point of view, which is just so interesting and so original. Okay, next we have Nightmares and Dreamscapes. I think this is my second favourite collection of short stories by Stephen King. There's so much quality in here. There are a lot of stories. It's a thick book. The two standouts for me were Crouch End, which is almost Lovecraftian, a wonderful story, and also They Got One Hell of a Band, which is a lot of fun. Next one is Insomnia. Now Insomnia I read a long time ago and I remember really enjoying it, and I know that it's got links to The Dark Tower, so I'm determined to read it again, give it another shot. But there's very little I can remember, but I'm going to give it a reread. Next book is Rose Madder. Now Rose Madder is more like a sort of suspense thriller where you've got a very, very nasty man, abusive husband, violent husband, a vile creature named Norman, and he is after his wife who has walked out on him, and it is thrilling, kind of traumatic at times, but well worth the read. Very suspenseful read. The next book is The Regulators. Now this is by Stephen King, written under the pseudonym of Richard Buckman. A lot of his earlier work, like The Long Walk that I mentioned in the last video, is also under the pseudonym. And this goes hand in hand with another book called Desperation. Now I'm pretty sure that I've read one of them when I was much younger. Once again, I'm going to have to give them both a reread. I'm not sure in what order, but I'm going to give them a try. Next book is The Green Mile. Now this is a magical, wonderful, heartbreaking tale. Really Stephen King at his best. I've got the collection of the six-part series, as well as in novel form as well. This is a story of a wrongly accused man who's on death row, and he's got magical abilities that affect the people around him. It's a truly amazing story, and if you haven't seen the movie, that's well worth it as well. And next we have Desperation, the other half of Regulators. I'm not sure which one is better, but I just love its cover as well. This is one of the better covers. Okay, so I'm going to be reading this year. Okay, next we have part 4 of the Dark Tower series, Wizard and Glass. Now I think this is highly underrated. I know that a lot of people either love this or hate it. I'm really, really fond of it. It tells the story. The Dark Tower kind of grounds to a halt in this book, where Roland sits with his quartet and he talks about his childhood and the love of his life, and it is a beautiful, wonderful story. Well worth reading. Next we have Bag of Bones. Now this I haven't read, but my wife highly recommends this. It's supposed to be a haunting tale. So this is another on my TBR to be read this year. This next little short novel, The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon, I'm afraid out of pretty much every Stephen King book I've read, this is not my favorite. I didn't get it. I'm not into baseball at all. I don't understand the rules. Okay, I know it's a lot more than just baseball. It's about a girl that gets lost in the wood, but for me it just didn't resonate at all. And that's okay. I'm alright. I'm at peace with it. The next book, however, Hearts in Atlantis, did resonate with me. This is a superb collection of novellas, stories, novellas, and it is heartfelt, beautifully written, at times horrific and terrifying, at times just poignant, and reflections of the Vietnam War, and thinking about those men who come home and have their nightmares and their stuff to deal with. But it's so much more than that, as this also has links with the Dark Tower, and I cannot recommend this highly enough. I know that it doesn't get a lot of love online, but I found this a beautiful, beautiful book. Right. And there we have it, everyone. That's my 90s book collection from Stephen King. I hope you enjoyed that. Please let me know in the comments below what you think. Which of these is your favorite, least favorite? maybe some of the ones that I haven't read, if you can let me know what should be my priority. And until next time, please like, subscribe, and tomorrow it'll be a longer video showing my books from the 2000s all the way to the present time. Thank you very much. Thanks for tuning in. Cheers. Keep those pages turning.